60 and 60 and single, 60 and happy, 60 and whatever it is that you want to talk about when you're over 60.
You still need me, will you still feed me when I'm 64?
Hi, I'm Michelle Ballin from True Self Branding, and this is 60 and podcast. And today's guest is Beth Wilson-Parentice, and we're going to talk about all the great things that she's done in her life and how she's recreated herself. So Beth, hi. And I want full, what do we say? Full visibility here. This is a redo because I obviously user error, must not have pushed the record button. We had a wonderful, wonderful interview. We were so natural. So we're going to fake it now and see how good we can fake it back.
Well, now like the pressure's on. So,
so please go ahead and introduce yourself. Be sure to tell us like any of the things and tell me your story. Like, where did you, tell me about this thing that you did and where you started.
Okay. Hi, everyone. My name is Beth Wilson-Parentice, as Michelle said, and I guess I would consider myself a serial entrepreneur for sure, and, talk about reinventing myself. I've done that many times. And most recently, I guess in my past sort of biggest entrepreneurial experience, I created a beverage company, an organic soda, which back when I did 10 years ago, organic soda is kind of like an oxymoron. People are like organics and soda all in the same word. But it kind of just happened, no pun intended, organically. I had a business where I was doing organic cocktail catering. And it was kind of new, like there were organic spirits that were coming out in the market and all the mixers I was making in my kitchen from home. I looked at mixers on the market and they were just filled with preservatives and artificial flavor and coloring. And I was like, where are there like natural, really good tasting cocktail mixers? And so I set out to make my own. I guess it's kind of my sort of like passion. I come from the restaurant industry, at least prior to that. Before that was many other things, but prior to that, my experience really was in restaurant. And I did create cocktails for the cocktail menu and things like that. But I think I really discovered my passion was like mixing different flavors. And so doing these events, it was so much fun for me because I could be creative and meet different people and worked with eco-friendly companies, serving organic cocktails, started working with the 76ers, doing their events. And so my business was growing.
Were you actually like, you're doing like a catering kind of thing where you were doing the bar?
Yeah, so we set up multiple bars. So depending upon the size of the event, we would have one bar, maybe we would have 3 bars. I would hire bartenders, and then we would create these signature cocktails depending upon the event. So we would name them like after whatever the event is. And I would use different fruits and whatever was fresh, organic herbs, and make all these different like concoctions at home and bring them and mix them and serve them at the events. And so people, I think, were expecting, like when they go to a bar and an event, they're like, oh, I'll have like a vodka and soda. But we were like, oh, this is the cocktail menu. And so it kind of opened up people's eyes to like, oh my gosh, this is an amazing, beverage. And so through that, all the responses I was getting from people were like, they would come back after having it and like, I want this drink. I want to buy it. I want to go to a place and have this. And so I was kind of at a crossroads. I was like, I knew I had something, but I just didn't know like where to go with it. It was like, I could open up, my business was called Eco Bar. So I was like, I could open up an eco bar. I could maybe put it in a bottle and sell it. But at first I was like, let me show people how to make it. So it's like telling people at the bar, you can get blackberries and mint and lime, you can muddle it. And that was kind of the aha moment. Like this one woman was like, I don't want to buy blackberries. I don't want to buy mint and lime for one drink. I don't even know what a muddler is. I just want this drink. So it was kind of like, okay, well, maybe I have something. And so I set out to bottle it and sell it. And, I always say that it was like a good thing that I probably didn't know much about the beverage industry because I had no idea the road that I was about to journey upon. But I just knew that this was something I was passionate about and I wanted to get it out there into the marketplace. And so I, thankfully through Google and lots of people that I was able to find online as, wonderful mentors that believed in me and my product, I was able to do our first production run, do our trade show. And people loved it and just started to grow and create more flavors. And, eventually ended up, selling it nationally to basically most all grocery retailers and 1,200 Target stores as well.
So is this the one where the beverages were not ready for the trade show?
Yes.
Tell me about that.
So this is definitely an example that I share a lot, especially for, women who feel like they have a great idea and then they hit this like roadblock and they're like, I don't know. I don't think I can do it. If you're really passionate about it, I always feel like if you keep trying and persevering, you'll find a solution. This is an example of that because I had planned to do my first production run ever, never been to a bottling plant. I finally got the production formula to the plant. Everything was planned to go about a couple of months before a big trade show that I had paid for and scheduled. And, as a side note, I was doing all this on a shoestring.
So
I basically
paid for and scheduled. So there's a big
Yes.
chunk of money that's laid out for this.
Yes. Thousands of dollars plus
Shows,
my booth that I bought all these different components that I created myself from IKEA, my whole booth design, I had everything, ready to go. I got a call from the production plant saying that, we are so overscheduled right now with customers, like we can't do these small minimums anymore. We have to do, raise our minimum. So what I was planned to do was 500 cases, went to 4,000 cases.
No.
And there was no way financially that I could make that happen. And now I basically had like a month to find another plant that could run this small amount of run and also be organic because the plant also had to be certified organic. So that was very limited. And every day I just kept calling, asking anybody I could find online and asking, and finally found this plant that agreed to run my product. And the only day that they had available to run it was the day of the trade show setup. And I was like, okay, I'm just going to put all my faith into this.
Were they in the same city at least?
And that's what was so crazy about it was that, plants are obviously everywhere all over the US. The trade show is in Boston. This plant was about an hour outside of Boston. And I'm in Pennsylvania, so it wasn't like it was local or anything, but it was local to the show.
Yeah.
So, the plan was, get the U-Haul, put all the trade show stuff in there, leave the back part of it open for the cases, go to, this town outside of Boston, run the product, put it in the van, and then continue to Boston to the convention center and set up the trade show and pray to God that it all that the stars align.
Oh my God. Did you take a vacation after that?
I don't think I did. I don't think I could because thankfully we had so many requests for the product that as soon as I got back home, there was like now all this work to do. But I think I was like running on adrenaline basically.
Yeah, absolutely. That sounds like such a horror story. That part of this. So you wrote a book.
Yes.
Is this the story?
I do tell the story of that and many other stories as on my journey of building the brand. And so there's a chapter that I dedicate to that. Just, everything, all the obstacles that I had to overcome and, kind of my thought process on it is, if it's something that you're really passionate about, you just kind of keep forging forward and you're like, wow, I got through this obstacle. I get through this obstacle. And then somehow you just keep going.
So this was this great process. Then you got to sell it to Target. Tell me that story.
Yeah. So being in a very industry that's very male dominated, which is the beverage industry, it has been for, decades prior. It was, definitely a challenge to kind of express my creative side in a way, when it's about business. And, I had a venture capital firm that eventually ended up investing in my company to enable us to grow in the way that we did, which I was very fortunate, that I had that. But at the same time, they were all male. So me wanting to kind of share my mission behind the brand, which was, very female focused, was definitely a challenge proving myself in the industry was also a challenge, because I think a lot of men don't believe that women can make a success in the beverage industry. So when this opportunity came up with Target, my broker told me you have 10 minutes to go in. They're seeing beverages all day, basically 10-minute increments. I was the last appointment, which I wasn't really sure if that was a good thing or a bad thing. That means they're exhausted, but yet I'll be sort of like the last thing on their mind. But it gave me the day to sort of like prepare. So, I knew I had 10 minutes. I had to tell my story succinctly, quickly, get the messages that I wanted to across. And when I went in, there was a panel of people from Target, and it happened to be all women, which I wasn't used to. But I was, pleasantly surprised.
You're like,
and
my people.
I know. So I was like, okay, I kind of changed. At that point, I was like, I think I can tell my story now, like in the kind of more the way that I wanted to, is, how I started in the kitchen, and how, I really support women, and Sipp's, the acronym of my brand, SIPP, stands for Strength, Inspiration, Passion, and Perseverance. I don't normally share that, but I did share that, with the panel at Target, and the response that I got was overwhelming. Like all the women were just like, oh my gosh, you're so inspiring. Like, I can't believe you created this in your kitchen, and now you're in all these major grocery stores and you didn't have any beverage experience. And then it just kind of snowballed, where one woman was like, oh, I'm having a girls' weekend. I want to bring some of these bottles so we can mix them with cocktails. Another woman's like, I want to open them up and try them. And my broker said they never try beverages during a meeting. So I was just, thrilled. And when we walked out, my broker was like, well, first of all, you're definitely going to be in. We thought we'd get into 400 stores, but we ended up getting into 1,200 stores. So that was a big celebration for me and my employees. We were, just so thrilled. It was, such a great opportunity for us.
That's awesome. What a fabulous story. So, but the story doesn't end there, does it?
No.
It's a little bit of like a Steve Jobs flavor. What happened after that?
Yeah. And it's so funny because, like, as an entrepreneur, and most entrepreneurs probably know, you hear about it, you watch Shark Tank, or you hear stories like Steve Jobs, like, if you have venture capital come in, I mean, it's called Shark Tank for a reason. They're sharks, that's kind of like, how they're looked at. So, venture capital firms are typically about the bottom line, making money, and having that exit. And that was our plan, was that we wanted to build the company to sell it. I was in conversation with a large beverage company and talking about, potential buyout. So I could see the light at the end of the tunnel. And unfortunately, just before we had the opportunity to do that, my investors had a different idea about how they wanted to position the brand from a flavor standpoint, from a messaging standpoint, which was different than mine. I was kind of caught off guard by that, because I felt like we had the trajectory, we were making the momentum. The people love the flavors. Mm-hmm. So it's kind of like, why fix it when it's not broken? However, I know that they wanted it to happen faster. So in their mind, making these changes would help the brand grow faster. In my mind, I knew that it would destroy the brand. So we were at this impasse. And so while I knew that, when you take investment money, like, you're going to have to, it really just doesn't become your company anymore. Right. Once they have investor rights, right, you're almost working for your own company.
Right.
I think I tricked myself in a way of thinking that we were on the same path. Like, I thought, they respected me. They, I sold the Target 1,200 stores. I got us into all these major retailers. We had an amazing team that I hired that worked tirelessly to grow this company. So in my mind, I'm like, I thought, we're on the same path. So when this happened, I was so blindsided. And unfortunately, because they were adamant about these decisions and these changes, I was basically forced to walk away with nothing. And, I still have equity in the company. but not much of it. And at that point, it was like, I either stay and see how this plays out, but my name was on everything. You know, my signature was on the bottles and the cans. My face was on the 4-pack carriers. It was like, I couldn't take that chance. And so it was the biggest decision, like the hardest.
Right, it destroys
time.
you as a brand. If it's
Yes.
no longer, it has your picture, but it's no longer anything about you.
Right. And that was the whole point of it, was like, why would I then do that? Like, this is the whole reason why I'm so passionate about what I'm doing and what I'm selling, and why I can go to Target and sell it, is because it's mine. Like, I created it. I believe in it. So if it's going to change, it's not me anymore. And I can't have my name attached to that. So I literally was pushed out and walked away with nothing really, but like I say, is my integrity. That's what I walked away with.
Good.
Yeah.
So then what happened?
So, it's bittersweet. I mean, they made those changes and the whole company, it crumbled. Customers started returning it to stores, the stores stopped carrying it, and the whole thing, my whole original concept and brand was gone.
Yeah.
They've since tried to revitalize it under different packaging, different flavors.
Right. Because now that is the hottest thing out there. All these, different concoctions.
Yeah. And that was the thing, like, I think it was kind of like ahead of its time in a way. Like I know, 10 years ago, there weren't these layers.
Yeah.
Like our one flavor, our signature flavor was ginger, vanilla, and lime. So it was like a layering. Yeah. And everyone had like the fruit and the herbs. Like back then, like nobody was doing it, which is why I wanted to do it. I searched and I couldn't find 3 ingredients in a bottle. Now it's like, it's everywhere. So they've been trying to revitalize it, but it's not working. But for me, it's like, what do I do now? This is what I've been doing for my life for 10 years, sacrificing time with my son, sacrificing time with my dad, who was diagnosed with brain cancer. It was like, what do I do? This has been everything to me. It was really hard to pick myself back up again and to basically reinvent myself. It's like, do I do another beverage? The thought of that at the time was like really overwhelming.
I can imagine.
So
like, the last thing you wanted to do, right?
Yes. Thankfully, one of my friends bought a ticket for me to go to a personal growth seminar in Arizona and paid for me to go. I really I was not in a good place. Like, it just only been a few weeks. So I picked myself up to go, and it was like one of the best things I could have done. I kind of fought it along the way. I was like, I don't know if I want to go and like be around positive people and all in my situation, which is not like me, by the way, but it was just a place that I was in. But going there and being around, all these positive speakers, meeting all these women that were there, sharing my story with them, hearing them say to me, like, you have to share your story with people. Like, this is amazing. It really got me to thinking. And on my flight back to Arizona, I just started writing. I did a whole like outline of a book. I knew what I wanted to share, different components of my life, different struggles I've gone through. Like, I just also recently gone through a divorce. And like I said, I had also lost my dad. And so how I managed my way through all these different things that came my way while I was building my business, while I was proving myself to these investors, and going to board meetings and having to, talk about, the plans for the business and to prove myself that, I was growing the company. And so all these stories, like stories are like my life, like just kind of came out. Yeah. And I have been going to therapy for 6 years now religiously. I'm a huge proponent of it. And through that, I've learned so many different tools and tips of like how to navigate your way through all these different challenges. So I took a lot of that knowledge that I had and integrated it into my book that I never thought I was going to write, but I did.
But that's this book, right?
Yes. So it's You Glow Girl. And, like I said, it's stories of different challenges and experiences to help women sort of navigate their way through if they're building a business or, have a loss or going through a divorce or in a toxic relationship.
I mean, I've talked to a lot of women and every single story is the same. Women have a tenacity that is unmeasured by anyone else. I mean, there's no one else that is taking care of a family, consistently running things and creating a business. That doesn't happen. The guys on the other side, they just create the business. They're not taking care of anybody but themselves. So it's such a huge undertaking. So what happens? Did you maybe create a new company?
Well, it's funny how things unfold in life. It's like you do, like when one door closes, another door opens. But then when you go through that door, you're doing something like the book that I never thought I would do, which then led me to the next, phase of my life. And I think without the book, I don't think that this next journey that I'm going on would happen. I don't.
Really?
I think I had in my mind, I did my beverage, I got to where I wanted to go as far as in my mind, I knew that I could grow it and build it. It didn't have the end result that I wanted with the big exit strategy that I was hoping for financial freedom for me and my son. But just for what I wanted to accomplish personally, I was okay, I did it. I know I could do it. And maybe, I'll use this experience and do other things, which I have been. I've been helping other entrepreneurs, grow their consumer product, too, which has been awesome. But through the book and then going on the book tour just before the pandemic, thankfully, I had time to do that. I met so many amazing women at these conferences that I was speaking at or attending, the entrepreneurial conferences, women empowerment conferences, that when I got up on stage and I told my story and then I got off stage, the women were coming up and they're like, wait, this is unbelievable. And you have to make a comeback. Yeah. You have to make a comeback. And as I was building my list of women that I was connecting with through my book, I was getting messages from women saying, I can't wait to see what you're going to do next. I can't wait to see your next beverage. I know you're going to do this. You're going to do everything that you wanted to do before, but you're going to do it now. Right. And they were telling me basically that I was going to do this. And I'm like, really? I'm going to do this? But I went to bed one night and I woke up and I had this vision of my new beverage, in my head. I don't know where it came from, how it happened. I sketched it out and I called one of my employees who worked with me at Sipp, who wanted to create another beverage, wanted to join me in my next company. And she loved the idea. And together we found an artist, created the packaging. I worked on the flavors, basically utilizing my resources and connections, from Sipp, which that was the advantage of walking away. I still had my reputation in the industry.
You hide the name so much. So what's the name of the company?
So the brand is called Wow. And Wow stands for with or without. So it's essentially an amazing tasting mocktail. I don't like the word mocktail, but amazing tasting spirit-free cocktail. It's like you're having a cocktail, but without alcohol. Or if you want to have it and mix it with alcohol, you can too. And so that's where Wow came from, the with or without.
The dog is now laying on the light wire and my everything's shaking. That's where I'm going. I'm trying to fix the dog.
Okay.
But yeah, I mean, tell me some of the flavors.
So I kind of created these layering effect like I did with Sipp because I knew it was successful, but I love really unique and different cocktails. I'm a huge fan of London. And when I went there a couple of times, I met with different mixologists. I think they're brilliant. They know what flavors are hot, what people are mixing. And so I kind of took the things I love, meeting with these top mixologists and created these flavor combinations. So for example, one of them is pineapple, ginger, and hibiscus.
That's my favorite.
And grapefruit, elderflower, and rosemary, and blackberry, lemon, and lavender, and cucumber, lime, and basil. So I created these 4 combinations because I see them mixing well with different types of alcohol, but also I created them to have the feeling that you actually have alcohol in it. So as people are getting away from drinking alcohol, they might go to like a LaCroix or something like that. This is different. Like LaCroix is like just a flavored sparkling water. These I created to have like body. So like if you went into a craft cocktail bar and you ordered a cocktail, it has that body to it. So it has juice in it. It's, more like a cocktail. And like the grapefruit, elderflower, rosemary tastes like it has gin in it, because it has like juniper, rosemary, which has that gin type of flavor. So I created them to make it feel like there is alcohol in them.
Yeah.
It tastes like
awesome. I mean, I think what a fabulous process that you have been through to create yet another. So what does the WOW stand for again?
With or without. So you can have it with or
Isn't there
without.
like a subtext to that for women?
Well, a couple of months ago, I was talking to this woman who's in marketing, and she, when I told her it was with or without, and she knew my story with the investors, she was like, oh my gosh, I thought with or without meant like you're doing this with or without them. Like it doesn't matter. You don't need them. You're doing it. And I was like, oh my gosh, I never even thought about it that way. But maybe somehow subconsciously, that's where it came from.
Exactly. Well, it's also like the logo is boobs. So it's like
I definitely went for the feminine look there.
Exactly. So when is the official relaunch?
So we did a very limited small production run just for influencers and press and investors. But we have the site up and we're doing pre-orders. So we're hoping to do our next like bigger run in February, and hopefully for Valentine's Day, which was your brilliant idea.
Valentine's Day. Yay.
Valentine's Day or Valentine's, whatever,
whatever.
With or without.
Yeah, exactly.
Whether you're with someone or you're not with somebody,
right?
You can still have it.
Well, I actually have one of the networking groups I'm in. We have an opportunity to host a coffee, and it's always just a very small group, but I'm making sure, and mine's in February. So I'm going to make sure that I get some WOW to serve at the event. So
that would be awesome.
Yeah, I think it's such a special product, and your story is so amazing. Just in going through the thing, like going through a divorce and going through your father dying and you have a son to take care of, and you have like all of these things. I've been through the same thing. I was here. I had to go through both of my parents, who were like one after the other,
Oh,
Those
wow.
are the hardest times you will ever have. And I was opening my new business and I was doing my new thing. It's crazy, the pressure that we put ourselves under. So you felt that therapy really helped you. What would be your suggestion to women who are doing all these things and juggling, and how to take care of themselves?
Oh, gosh. I mean, for me, it was number one, therapy, and number two, journaling. And the journaling came through the therapy. When I started therapy, I'm grateful as anything for my therapist, because he has these like words of wisdom. I don't even think he realizes it, but there's little things that he says. His name is Todd, and so I call them Toddisms. And that's what started me to write, was that when I would get these like bits of information from him, they were simple sentences or statements, but somehow it just clicked. Like you can see things from a different perspective when somebody you could talk to your friends, you could talk to your, family, but when you talk to somebody from the outside, and obviously, has professional experience, but still, I think it's just that outside perspective. And sometimes it's just shifting your perspective.
Right.
And I think a lot of times, like it's hard for women to like give ourselves credit. And I definitely struggle with that. In going through therapy and journaling, what ended up happening was, and by the way, the journals helped me with my book too, because I was able to go back and use a lot of that information. But through the journaling was like, you can go back a few months, a year, read what you wrote. And there were times where I was like, oh my gosh, like I didn't even know that I was like in that like really bad place, at that time. And then it's, gratitude, like giving yourself, accolades for like surviving through
Keep
these
going.
different
Yes.
different
Right.
things that were obstacles that we're hit with.
That you just kept going. You just kept going. Yeah.
Yeah. And the journaling it's very cathartic, because it's like you're going through something and you're writing it. And so it's kind of, you're getting it like out of your head.
Mhm.
And then it's also, like I said, going back and looking at it was really instrumental for me. Especially when I was going through with my dad in hospice. And, I wrote so much during that time. It really helped me.
Right.
But I share some of that experience in my book too. Like
You
one
have
of the chapters.
these little glow girl affirmations. So you have a affirmation in there that says, my imperfections make me unique. So what are the imperfections that make you unique?
Well, I think there's many, but I think
I have a crooked smile, so that's one
Yeah.
of my imperfections.
and I think they can be external or internal. I think like, and that's kind of, again, through journaling, it's like, the things that we beat ourselves up over, in our head, like when we look at ourselves, or when we think about like, oh my gosh, I couldn't do this today, or like, oh, look at this on my face, or, and I think that's where that statement resonates with me. And I think the biggest one for me, which is the first chapter in the book, which is titled Red, was that I always felt like weird and different, especially as a child, because of my hair color. And especially then, it's dark, and now over, as old as I am, but when I was younger, it was bright red, like bright red. And so, it's called names like firecracker and, fire engine and red and all these names. And, and I always felt like, I wish I just had like regular color hair, I could just be normal. But as I got older, I realized that it's my uniqueness. It's me. It makes my personality, and it's part of me. And so I think that's what it is. It's like the things that sometimes we think are negative about us, try to flip it and think of it more as, as an attribute or something that's special and unique about you, and how you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Adolescence, girls learn like at 11, 12 years old to smile and be nice. And you start to want to just fit in. Like, I just want to fit in, where later you find out that being weird or unique or nerdy or whatever it is the thing. Like, the people who all fit in are just like a blob somewhere, where, crazy you who goes out and creates her own beverage company, right? Is the uniqueness, is the thing. So how far along in the decades are you? Are you in your
50s?
Right. So this is something, another fear that we all have is it's too late.
Yes.
It's like, talk about, you had all of this done, it crashed and burned, and then you waited, and then you went and did it again, like at a later date. So we get caught up in that ageism thing, where it is not true.
So
not true. Right.
It's so prevalent. Out of probably most of the messages I get from women, it is that that, I don't know how to start over again. I think it's too late. And also I think too, it's like, when we're younger, it's like the world is our oyster, it's like we have all these ideas, and then over time things start to wear us down or break us down. The statements that are said to us if you're in a toxic relationship, or, the things that come our way. And then we just start to get broken down, over time. And it's like, you get to a point where you're like, it's hard to see that, like, I can do this.
Right.
So it's all those messages, and it's getting all those messages out of our head.
Right.
Because I actually told myself, like, I did this beverage already. I did it once. Okay, I'm done. I can't, what are the chances of me doing it again? Like and so I think that's what happens. Like, we tell ourselves those things, and it's just, changing that mindset, and getting rid of all that like negative talk that we hear.
Well, also, I think it's a time sensitive thing because, you don't have to go back very far to have women did not have a voice. So now we're advanced. So even we have this body positivity thing now, like the stuff I see now, had I seen it then, like what a difference that would have made to me as a kid. Right. So
true.
is it perfect? No. Will it ever be perfect? No, but at least it's changing and moving and growing and giving more people opportunity to see that they can do stuff. So don't forget, when you go back, you were not only in a negative environment, but the surroundings of what we were being told were also not very positive. I mean, when I grew up, women could be a nurse, they could be a teacher, they could be a wife. That's the choice. Oh, a nun, of course. In my school, that was like one of the hot topics. Like I could be a nun, which was never going to happen. Never, ever, ever.
Yeah. I don't think I ever heard of like a woman beverage entrepreneur.
Yeah. Yeah.
And actually there's a quick like little story that I have in the book, or not a story, but like a pivotal moment that happened to me was when I didn't know, like I said, I didn't know what I was doing in the industry, but I thought if I reach out to a consultant, maybe they'll help me and figure out if this is something I should do in the very beginning. And I searched and I found a woman. I found a woman consultant. I was so excited, got a call scheduled with her. And at the end of the call, she was like, look, if you don't have $1 million, she's like, you can't do this. It's not going to work. 85% of all beverage businesses fail. Like, it's just the way it is. So I would say, at this point, I wouldn't move forward with it. I was so dejected. I was like, first of all, I'm like, I wanted to meet this woman that was going to be like, yes, I'm a woman in the industry. Let's do this. Let's get more women in the industry. And like all, like fire me up and everything. And I got off the phone and
she was just dragged down by the whole environment that she was in.
And I didn't know what the environment was, so it was just like, where's this coming from? And of course, again, as women, like we take it personally. So I'm like, oh, I can't do this now. Like I was devastated. And I really, for that night, thought I'm not going to do it. But something happened. I went to bed and I woke up in the morning and I had this revelation. Again, it's shifting your perspective. And I think, again, this comes from my therapy, was the statement. And I say this often: if 85% of beverage businesses fail, 15% succeed. Why can't I be in the 15%?
Exactly.
I had that in my mind the entire time moving forward in growing my brand. So actually I thank her in a way, because it pushed me to say that I'm going to be in that 15%.
There are some people who told the Beatles that they were never going to make it because you can't make it as a rock band. So, and I'm sure Lady Gaga, Madonna, like all of these people,
probably all of them
told, no, and they're weird. They just hung on to their weirdness. They worked, crazy hours or whatever, and just did it. And I think, especially women and girls, we're just taught to, don't push it, don't be risky, don't do this. Risk, I did crazy stuff in my life, and at midlife, at 30 something, I took off and went to Germany to go live with some guy. Right. So did I have a job? No. Did I have money? No. Did I have my stuff? No, I just went. Like, how nuts
is for you?
Yeah. So we weren't together very long, but I stayed 15 years and created a whole business, and I created a whole life for me there. So it's kind of like, sometimes when you do take the risk, it's worth everything. It's really
it's just like jump. You just jump. And actually, there's this chapter in my book about that too. Yeah, taking the risks. And like you, I met somebody over the phone, and they were taking a trip to Ireland, and they said, "Hey, why don't you meet me in Ireland?" And I booked a trip, and I went to Ireland. Good. It didn't work out in anything like. Yeah, but I had the most amazing experience. And so I write about that entire experience in my book too. That's one of the chapters. It's pretty funny.
So because magic is a big part of my life, and my father was a magician, so I always ask everybody, what is the magic moment in your life? What would you say is the magic moment? And take out like birth of a child and all that stuff. I can say that because I don't have one. Take all that stuff out. But what was the magic moment in your life, just you? Like, what would you say that is?
Well, you're right, because my first answer would be my son. Because when I saw him for the first time, that it was magic.
Yeah.
But beyond that, I would definitely say the success that I had in growing the beverage. I mean, I think that honestly, in the back of my mind, while I told myself like I want to be in that 15%, I still didn't know what I could accomplish. Growing it to a multi-million-dollar company, from this little idea that I had making in my kitchen to multi-million dollars, was something that I never knew that I could do. And through that, it wasn't even so much about, oh, I created a multi-million-dollar company, but it was more internally what that did for me.
Mm-hmm.
It really gave me the confidence and the strength to make changes in my life that I knew I probably should do, but I just didn't have the courage. I didn't have the confidence to do it. And I don't know so necessarily if that's like a magic moment, but I think it was the magic that happened that enabled me to move forward in my life, and be the person that I knew I really wanted to be, but was, just in this, situation that I didn't know how to get out of.
Yeah. Beth, thank you so much for your story. I cannot wait to try my wow when it comes, with or without. Here's the book again for you guys to go ahead and buy. Where can they find you? Tell them where to look to find you. We'll have it in the show notes, but go ahead and tell them how to find you.
So my website is, for me personally, and for the book, is my full name. So it's BethWilson-Parentice.com. So on there, find stuff about me. Also, you can link to the book, but the book is also available on Amazon and BarnesandNoble.com. And you can Google it that way or connect through the website. And then my new beverage website is wowsparkling.com. And so you can find that there. And then of course, I'm on Instagram too, both the same, wow_sparkling Instagram. And then my full name for my personal or business, Instagram.
Yeah.
And, my whole mission moving forward is, with the Wow Beverage, is to give a percentage back of profits to women who either want to start or grow their business. And so the plan is that we'll choose one woman every quarter of the year, and give the portion of the profits to them to help do that. So I'm really excited about that. And then also just, in general, like from the women empowerment standpoint in my book, if anybody is struggling with anything, or, they read the book and resonate with something, I encourage women to reach out to me and connect with me through social media, or through the website. And I'd be happy to talk or, chat.
Excellent. Thank you so much. And thank you so much for the redo. It was such not a positive situation when I looked and there was nothing there. It was like,
I was like, no, it's just gone.
It's just not there. It's just not there. I kept putting like the next one over, and I was like, why is that my old video? I always base it like on what I was wearing. And I look at the picture and I'm like, no, that's not right. But thank you so much. I really appreciate it. And I would love to get together with you on, if you're doing that quarterly thing, maybe my ladies in the DIY branding group or something, if there's a way to participate in that, choosing somebody quarterly, I'd love to be a part of that. So if we can get into that, it would be good.
Will you still feed me when I'm 64?